That gold has got to go. What I'm going to do today is put a carbon fiber wrap on the gold portion of my Chevy emblems on my truck. The front and rear. I may do the one on the steering wheel. So I ordered this wrap. They're supposed to be specific for whatever emblem you have. What it is, they kind of cover the basic size of the emblem. This is from a company called Vivid with 2 V's. I'll put a link in the description. It's a carbon fiber look and feel. You can wrap it with anything. They make all sorts of different wrap. American flag, you can gloss black, matte black, white, red, whatever you want. You need a good hobby knife, a heat gun, some wrapping squeegees, and the first thing you're going to need is some isopropyl alcohol. Please excuse the dogs. This stuff never goes that well for me, but we're going to go with it because we're running out of daylight here. First thing we're going to do is clean the emblem with some alcohol. There's probably better things to do this with that are lint free, but that's what I have. An old rag. Give her a good wipe down. And the good thing about this alcohol is it will clean, but it'll evaporate. And if you do a good job, it leaves nothing behind. I've got this crevice around the gold, and I also have this little recess. So I want to clean in there because I want to be able to push the wrap back into that crevice. It's also got texture on it, but from what I understand, this stuff works pretty well, and it holds to that texture pretty well. And you know, it turns out pretty well for everybody I've seen use it. Looked at reviews and looked at other videos. I can't say I've ever done this, but I guess we're going to learn together. Let me get a seat here. I'm pretty sure all the alcohol is gone and the emblems as clean as it can be. Clean enough. So now we get to do probably one of the things I hate doing the most. Just trying to get the backing off of something like this. It's pretty tedious for someone with big callousy hands, I guess. So what I'm going to do is kind of hold it where everything's covered and touch down in the center. Try that again. And just try to push it into place. This particular wrap is designed to the adhesive on the back of it is not like smooth, it's textured, so it allows for air to escape out of it as you squeegee it. Shouldn't be too much of a problem on this emblem because it's textured itself. Basically what I'm doing is pushing it on, and so what you do after that, it's not very sticky. This particular wrap is not real sticky. You have to put some heat on it with a hair dryer or a heat gun, and that makes it stick. That also helps you, you know, if you have real complex curves, and it'll allow this to stretch and conform around to little nooks and crannies. So basically what I'm doing right here, I squeegeed it onto the main surface first, and now I'm pushing down into the little nooks and crannies. down into the groove. Then we're going to apply some heat. And while we're applying heat, once we got it close to where we want it and kind of in the grooves, and we'll push on that even more, and it'll help it bond. You know, there's people that do this professionally. I cannot say I've ever done this at all, but a little common sense here. You know, I'm just pushing it into the grooves, and the good thing is I can see the outline. They make better squeegees for this kind of thing. They're like felt tipped and all that. I'm not too concerned with it. Put it on low heat. Yeah, it kind of instantly starts shrinking. That might be a little warm. We'll back up a little bit. I can see the texture. I'm going to back up. This thing may be a little bit too hot. This sucker puts out some heat. Look at that. Wow. Wouldn't you know it, I run out of memory. I think what I'll do now is continue on the back where we left off on the front, and we'll go from there. Presto changeo. It's another day and the damn truck done turned itself around. So what I'm going to do now is get this rear emblem to where we left off on the front, and I will bring you guys in from there. I did learn a couple of things on the front emblem through trial and error. So there is a difference between a hair dryer and a heat gun. So I'm used to a heat gun, and that's what I have here. But in my world, using a heat gun, usually I'm using it on heat shrinking, like connectors, electrical connectors, solder joints, and heat shrink tubing. You know, you require close heat. So this vinyl wrap, on the other hand, does not. So on the front, there's an area that, you know, as you can see in the video, at first I was pretty close to the wrap, as I would be with heat shrink. You can see the texture of the emblem through that spot. It's not that bad. I'm not worried about it. But what I learned from that is to not get so close. If you use a hair dryer, the difference is this thing puts out a lot of heat and not a lot of air. It has air coming out. It's kind of a gentle flow. A hair dryer blows a lot of air and not as much heat. It's just something to consider if you try this yourself. If you have a hair dryer, which most people do, you might just try far away. If you have a heat gun, you definitely want to try far away. As you can see here, I cut a notch out the corner of this wrap, and I use that piece on my steering wheel emblem. Alright, this is where a good hobby knife comes in hand. You need one of these, a steady hand, and good eyesight, which neither of those I have. Lighting would help. I've got the sun shining at a weird angle, so one thing I found on the front emblem was it's best to cut towards the outside of your outline. You can push, there's a little gap, a very small gap between the gold and the chrome on these particular emblems, and you can push what little excess you have into there. If you get a little too close, what happens is you can see see some of the gold. And that's not what I want. I have a little trouble trying to find the very edge. A little patience. On the front one, I thought I was doing a terrible job when I cut it. And in the end, whenever I peeled the excess off and started pushing my wrap down, it ended up fine. Some of these are just hard to find. But like I said, it's better to start on the outside. I'd rather do that than poke a hole where it's going to be visible. Even worse than poking a hole would be cutting a slice out of it. A hole may not be so like that hole I just poked there. Maybe that won't stand out, but you cut a sliver out, that would obviously stand out. So another thing you'll notice is any straight section I'm cutting, I'm starting not at one edge or the other. I'm starting just somewhere in the middle or off from one side a little bit. And the reason that I'm doing that is I don't know where the corner, say, right there is. So if I start here and work my way to the corner and then start where I started and go the other direction, it's a lot easier than trying to find a corner. You could do this with a good new razor blade. I happen to like using hobby knives for a lot of different things because you know they have a handle. It's more like a pencil, and they're a lot easier to control. So at this point, I'm making sure that all my straight lines meet at the corners. So I've got nothing hanging. Final push down. So pretty much the emblem's cut out. I'm going to start peeling this wrap off real carefully. Make sure you leave the wrap behind. Alright. Still got a little. Alright. That doesn't look bad, but we're going to heat it again and really get that push down. Alright, we got them both down. Not perfect. You can see a little gold right there. We learned a few things on the front one and corrected them on the rear, but overall it looks good. I like it. It's got a good look for the whole truck, I think. Here's the back one. Kind of parked in the shade. It's really hard to see the details on it, but it kind of has a carbon fiber look. It looks good enough. Looks good from a distance too. It's got that nice black emblem you see on a lot of them. Of course, I got my black wheels. Still good and glossy. Whole truck needs a bath, obviously. Front emblem. And I have that one little piece of material left over that I saved for the steering wheel. So I'm not going to bore you guys with that. I might post a picture of it afterwards. Hopefully I can make it work. It's a very small emblem. It looks like it's going to be really tedious. So if it works, I'll post a picture at the end of the video.
I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I got my teeth on wedding rings in the movie.